On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
What does winning or not being a loser look like 20 years from now for a guy like you? Like, I'm not talking about materially, like, although maybe your mind goes there, but does that change? Does it grow? Like anything like that?
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolf, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolf, Gathering the Kings podcast. I've got Michael Akerman here on the King stage. My brother, how we doing?
Doing good. Yourself?
I'm much better now that I said your last name right. I asked you ahead of time. I always do. Here we are. We're humans. We're making it happen. I'm so thankful that you're here with us. We were just talking off air about some cool stuff that even that you're doing right now with your team. You're sitting in kind of a special room. We'll get to that here in a second. I'm just glad that you're here. What kind of business do you have, brother?
So I own a outdoor lighting company here in Houston. We do mostly residential projects where we're working on homes, kind of gotten into the commercial side of it around the country, renovating apartment complexes, and just, loving every day.
Love it, man. Love it. The natural progression of bigger projects and more important things is kind of what I was picking up from that. So I appreciate the trajectory there. Maybe we'll get some more detail there. I want to know your story. I want to know how you got rolling. The notes that my team took were that you are a sharp guy, and I'm super interested in hearing your story. But I want to know first, I'm big on burning desire, definiteness of purpose. Why, right? So why are you doing this? Why are you living life this way? Why are you after it? Why are you competing so hard? Give me the burning desire for Michael.
So so I was talking to my mom about this beforehand, like 5 minutes before the podcast. And she asked me, like, why do you do what you do? Why do you get up every day? Why do you hustle, grind? And it might sound like silly or simple, but I don't want to be a loser. I want to be a winner.
Yeah.
I mean, it all comes down to that.
Yeah.
In my in my book, in my family, in my circle of friends, there's few things that determine your success in life: family, the people you keep around you, and frankly, financially, right? So,
Yeah.
if it's one of three things, I want to be the best, and I want to be a winner.
Yeah. I resonate with that as a competitor, previous athlete. I think a lot of entrepreneurs can, hear that and then it lands. What does that look like 20 years from now? Project it out. We're both young guys. What does winning or not being a loser look like 20 years from now for a guy like you? Like, I'm not talking about materially, like, although maybe your mind goes there, but does that change? Does it grow? Like anything like that?
So so a big reason of what I love, what I get to do, is the people that we get to work for, our customers. We deal with, the 0.0001% of the wealth of the city of Houston. So we're dealing with the rich and the rich, right? And I like to kind of nitpick and like ask questions and kind of understand. And a lot of them are really cool and will sit down and have a drink with me after the job and just I can kind of pick their brain. And my idea of true success is not having a cell phone or only having like 10 people know your number. And everybody else that calls you goes to your personal assistant, your secretary, whatever.
That's right. That's right.
So to me, winning is being able to do whatever I want to do, whenever I want to do it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that that can transcend time over, the next decade, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. I want to encourage not only you, but the listener. I have a mastermind member, and he's a pretty big outfit, a couple hundred million. And we were talking about this exact same thing. And I told him to just go get a second phone, give his assistant his phone that he has currently, only plug in those, whatever number 10 or 50, whatever the number is of people into his actual phone now, and literally give that filter to his assistant. And such a small thing, this is just like, this is not rocket science. You're a smart guy. I'm a smart guy. It changed everything for him. And so I want to encourage you just to go get that second phone.
You know what? The funny thing is, my brother told me to do the exact same thing like a week ago. We were
Yep.
playing, and the phone was just going off and blowing up, and
Yep.
said, why don't you just get a whole nother phone and leave this one at your office?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But, but that also goes back to, maybe I'm saying that, like the fact that I don't like being busy, or, and subconsciously I do like it. And I don't want to get rid of it. So, what I think is winning in my mind might not actually be what I want in my heart.
Yeah. Well, winning for competitors is doing, it's achievement, it's accomplishment. And so, yeah, I think that there's probably fear in giving things away. I think all entrepreneurs feel that, because then, well, where would my value be, and what would I be doing? Because sitting on the porch watching the sun rise and the sun set, and I just drink a couple of glasses of tea in between, doesn't sound like winning.
Yeah.
So I hear you on that. I think that as business owners continue to level up, I'm myself included in this, is that we have to keep searching for that next lever to pull that brings even more value. And maybe I only make one decision a day or one decision a week, or like Warren Buffett says, if he makes 2, 3, 4 big decisions a year, that's all he's looking for. And so when you're pulling levers like that, I don't need a phone ringing every day. I just need information. I need data. I need reports, and I can make a decision every day or a decision every week, So,
The funny thing is, it kind of makes sense, because we like, true billionaires, like people that are worth billions that I know. I was flying home with one of them on their jet from Florida back to Houston, and I was just sitting talking to him, and I asked him, I was like, have you yet to stop to smell the roses? I was like, had you done? And his wife started laughing, and he kind of looked at me, and he's like, shook his head. He was like, I don't even know what that means, Mike. And I was like, have you stopped, like, to just like be like, wow, I can't believe I've gotten this far? And he's like, no. He's like, you don't do that. Like, and so I think that's something that, like, talking about it right now, I'm kind of getting it, where I liked the fact, and my dad says the same thing. He's like, I asked him, like, when did you know you were whatever, like, this sort of wealthy? And
right.
he was like, it's just like one day you're looking at something and you're like, oh, okay, this much here and this much here, and then you just, and then
you go back to work.
yeah, like, it's, maybe again, like I said, it's something that I think I want, but realistically, what I want is just to always somewhat be like hustling in a way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it's really, really good perspective. I appreciate you sharing. I think for the listeners, probably most of them feel the same way. The reality of it is that we say we want freedom, right? I was just talking about this with somebody else, I don't know, maybe a week or so ago. And we say we want freedom, which is, I want to be able to do what I want, when I want, like what you just said. But what you mean to say is that you want control, which is why you like the phone ringing subconsciously, because you like to control everything. And so as soon as you can get, and freedom and control are opposite. Like, you can't have freedom if you have control.
yeah, very true.
So anyway, we're working through some of that stuff, even in my own, because we are control freaks, and that's okay. Like, we've been successful because of that. And so maybe freedom isn't what I actually want, or maybe I just need to own that I want control, or maybe I do want freedom and I need to give away, but that's for another conversation. I got to know the story, man. Lights, working with the top of the top of the top of the rich in Houston. Like, you don't just stumble into that. Tell us the story. How'd you get started?
So, all right, well, it's kind of a long story, but I guess we go. Okay, so I'm the middle of 5 kids.
Wow.
My parents are from what was the Soviet Union in different parts. My mom was from St. Petersburg. My dad was from Odessa. They met at a boarding school in Israel. Fast forward, they got here to America at different times, ended up marrying. And my mom, my dad, he used to sell cars. He used to be a day trader. I remember in the 90s when like everyone started day trading a little bit. And my mom at that point opened up her first dental office. I was probably 10. And I remember, stories coming out of husbands losing like all the family savings and then like, you know, killing the families and like committing suicide. So my mom was like, you're not going to do that anymore. Go back to work. So he started looking at like a few different options and he opened a lighting company in 95. My older sister, she is a rheumatologist. She owns a research facility where she does testing on new drugs for pharmaceutical companies. My older brother runs my mom's dental practices, which she has 9 of them now. My 2 little sisters, one's a partner at Ernst and Young. One is at Occidental, an engineer. So and I always kind of knew at a young age I would kind of go into this. I don't know why. Maybe just because I thought this. I really don't know why. I just kind of figured I would. So summers I would go and help dig the ditches. And college I would come home and run some of the crews. And it was 2013. I was full on into this. And actually I remember when I graduated college, all my buddies were getting signing bonuses for different oil companies and engineering firms they were going to work for. And I was like, if I get a signing bonus, and it's like, like he kind of giggled and laughed. And the next day he handed me a shovel and he goes, this is your signing bonus. So he made me start off at the bottom and kind of work my way up. And so 2013, he sold it. And in the back of my mind, I always thought that he would just kind of like hand it over, frankly, like Billy Madison, just kind of like handing it over.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, all right, that sucks. I didn't really see that happening.
Yeah.
I was engaged at the time. I remember he was still paying me, so I didn't look like a bum, not having a job. And I was about to start working, or I was kind of talking to my future father-in-law about possibly working for him. And my dad came to me and he goes, do you like doing what you do? Did you like outdoor life? And I was like, yeah, I do. I was like, I think I'm really good at it. Like I get along with people. Like it's fun. I like being outside. Like,
yeah.
And he goes, I think you're really good at it too. And he goes, let me give you a little bit of a loan. And he did give me 2 vehicles, 2 vans to start off. And he said, why don't you give this a try on your own? He goes, I'll tell you 2 things. One is you never want your father-in-law to know exactly how much money you make. 1. And 2, you will appreciate this much more if you do it yourself.
Yeah.
And so at the time I was still pissed. I was like, whatever. He gave me a $10,000 loan. I remember 2 vehicles. And I remember thinking to myself, all right, like this is me being pushed up against the wall. Like how can I handle this? I can either get out there and do the things that nobody else needs to do and try to succeed and do it on my own, or I can just kind of fold and be a little baby, a little loser, and just so in 2 weeks, I remember I started on Monday. Following Friday, I paid him back for 10 grand and just kind of took off from there.
I love it. I mean, good for him, good for you, right?
Yeah.
I got to ask though, because we've already talked about family briefly before we hit the record button, and then now we've kind of touched on it just a smidge. But how does that change, or are you in alignment with what you would do with your own children?
So I struggle with that because so we have a 5, 4, and a 2-year-old, and I really, we all have the memories of like our childhood and like how great it was. How old are you?
36.
Okay, so I'm 36 as well. I mean, when we grew up, it was best time to grow up. Like we kind of grew up, like we were able to be kids before the internet. Everyone was outside. Blah. So I have these memories of being a kid, and I try to emulate that to like my kid. I try to do that for mine, even though I'll never be the parent that my parents were to me. Like I have the best parents in the world. Whatever they did it right. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be me, and so will I try to do, no, I mean, frankly, I spoil the hell out of my kids. I mean, but at least I know it, but
That's funny.
I don't know. I mean, I'm big on letting my kids try to figure things out on their own. I'm not one of those. Do you have kids?
Oh yeah, we got 4 of those little guys, gals.
How old?
9, 7, 4, and 11 months.
Okay. Okay. So you get it. So like, especially probably like the 4-year-old, right? Like when you're at places, you see parents just like right behind them, like walking, like
Oh yeah.
God forbid if they fall, or God forbid if like
Oh
they
yeah.
start arguing. So I try to step back and let my kids be kids, to where I'm not like behind them the whole time. So
Yeah.
I guess in that aspect, I do try to be like my parents in that way. But
Yeah. Yeah, I love the perspective. I think that it's interesting you being, second generation, not necessarily second generation of that specific business, but second generation business owner mentality. I mean, yeah, I mean, you got to see a lot of great stuff. And then your kids are going to be able to get to see a lot of great stuff with you being successful, even with them being so young. I think that if done right, you can pass that along. I think that there's a lot of cool things, like you said, that your parents did for you.
now I always say this too, that like, because my parents were really poor when we were younger, and I grew up like just watching them like hustle, like work, like grind it out, and like
Yeah.
what they are now. And I think that's why I think working hard is normal. And
Yeah.
hopefully my kids see that from me, because, if you look at certain friends that I have, whatever, that like they don't think working hard is normal, because
Right.
that's what they saw growing up.
Yeah. 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 I liken to that for sure. I've told my story on some other podcasts and stuff, but I grew up single mom family. So and my mom always had 3 jobs. And so for hustle and grit, figure it out, never quit, like all those things are like in my DNA. I don't know
Yeah.
how to not do those things. All right, well, let's get into some practicality in your business. I want to know of a good decision that you made along the way that's led to maybe some other dominoes falling for you. What was that one thing that you would repeat over and over again if you could?
Let me see. The best decision that I made. So I always, and I kind of watched my dad doing this, and my mom, right? Which my mom is way more successful than my dad was, but they had like a very simple way of like doing business, and that is like just make more money than you spend. And you see some other, you see and read about like other things that like other businesses where it's overcomplicated, and they have to find the right place to, like the right office for their business, the perfect desk, and this and that. And it's like, just get out there and make money, and everything else will just kind of fall into place.
I love that. And that does play into some things. And so talk to me about simplicity is what you're saying. And on top of that, making sales or the collection process, probably more than just the sales, really, really important. So do you have a sales kind of a mindset? Do you have a sales culture? Is this just from your mom and dad? Do you have like a sales perspective from your history? Like give us a little bit of that, because that's a growth mindset. That's like well, it's also a simplicity, like just don't do dumb things, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
give me a little bit more there.
with selling, okay. Well, I mean, I'm assuming every industry is different, right? With like closing the deal, right?
Sure.
With my industry, I mean, this is, I don't really, I try not to think about things that are out of my control, like competition and stuff like that. I just only worry about what I can do. But
Yeah.
I'm a big believer that if you don't close the deal, like when you're in front of the customer the first time, the likelihood of getting a call back is like zero, right? Like I consider it like a lost job if I don't get a yes when I'm there. So with that being said, there's a fine line between like looking pushy and just
Yeah.
do your job. And I can't really put a finger on like exactly what I do when I'm doing it, but I'm able to do that, to where like, because you probably have people coming trying to sell you stuff at your house when you get estimates, and
Yeah.
you know, you get the people that like, especially now, right? That like you have them come over and to give you an estimate, and they never even give you the quote. And then you have the other type of people that come over and are like a used car salesman type thing, right? So I've somehow, which I guess I'm kind of patting myself on the back for, but I've figured a way to do it to where it just doesn't seem like I'm like pressuring or pushing them in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm hearing you say there's a genuine connection point because it's real. You actually believe that doing the service for them can better them or increase the value of their home or whatever the result is that they're looking for. Safety potentially, like there's a lot of reasons or results that they might be looking for in an outdoor lighting plan. But the ability that you're talking about to not be the pushy car salesman, which is what we all know of as like that, you don't really care about me, you just want to get the deal.
Yeah.
And then the other is you don't care enough about me or you to even be professional enough to give me the estimate and follow up. And,
Exactly. Yeah.
how are you even in business? Right. And so somewhere in between there's a professionalism. One of our core
Yeah.
values of Gathering the Kings is we're professionals. It's like, not only do you grit and hard work, but it's like, do what you say you're going to do. I'm here to give you the information that you need in order to make a quality decision. And I've done my job properly at the end of this meeting. If you have all the things that you need in order to make a decision. And guess what? All you got to do is then give them enough information and some options and some reasons to move forward. And they usually will if you've done your job. Would you agree?
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, Kings and Queens, Chaz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow.
Love it, man. Okay, let's flip the coin. Let's talk about a bad decision, something that you did. It was maybe not your greatest hour.
The thing that I've done in the past that I regret is not letting go of employees when I should have, because it's hard not to get, like the whole hiring and training. I hate that part. Like I don't know if it's me being lazy with that or if it's just like I would much rather be doing something else for the business, but like I really don't like doing that. So there's a few employees that I've had in the past that I wish I would have fired before it got to a certain point.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the negative effect of that was
Just like a toxic environment.
yeah. Yeah. And you don't realize till later that the toxic environment wasn't worth the retraining that you would have had to do.
So true. Yes. So true. Yes.
Do you think, I was just kind of contemplating what you were saying there. I feel like you and I are pretty similar in like our urgency and just like, hey, I just want to hurry up quick and win. And so as you were talking about the training and the lack of desire for that, first off, the first thing that came to my mind was put somebody there to do that. But, there's a patience that comes with training. There's a poise or a real desire to like hang in the balance and make sure someone understands and gets it. And typically high achievers get it easier, whether it's higher IQ or EQ potentially. And so there's just not as much patience there. Would you agree that we're alike in this way? Because I'm talking about me here.
Yeah. I mean, I expect people to get it, but also my dad kind of threw me out to the wolves. And so I expect everybody to do what I did.
Yeah.
But mind you, I didn't like looking back now. I remember when I started working full time, it was like really embarrassing. I mean, I was embarrassed, but like I did not sell a thing for like a little over 6 months. And I remember my dad was like lying to all the siblings and saying, like, oh yeah, he's doing, and I remember I thought I thought I knew. I think it's a full story. So
Yeah.
during the day, I was a foreman where we would go out. I would go with my crew and we would install jobs, do service calls, stuff like that. And then In the evening, I would go and sell. At night, we used to go and bring like demo lights to people's homes and set them up and show them what it would look like and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember my dad, I made him make me like some button down shirts, so I could, I would comb my hair that look all, try to look what I thought looked the part.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't close anything. People would invite me over like to like hang out, even though they would buy from me, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, what am I missing? I remember thinking,
Yeah.
like, what the hell am I doing that I just can't figure out? And I remember very specifically my first sale, they actually came to my wedding. They were super nice. It was a very long day. I didn't have time to go home and change. I was muddy, dirty, I was tired. And it kind of made me just be myself, like not front, just be as genuine as natural. Because in life, I like to be very honest. I like to be blunt. I am very blunt. I like to just be me because I figure if you don't like me, there's enough people in this world that will, that I can go and hang out with them. So and that's how I was during that first job that I sold. And I sold it, and I like as I was driving home, I was like, "That's it. You just truly have to be yourself." And
Yeah.
and then after that, it just kind of exploded.
That's cool.
But yeah, so,
That's super encouraging. I want the listener to just take a little note here because what you're saying is the juice. I mean, I can teach and have taught hundreds, if not thousands, of sales professionals and teams. I can teach technique and tonality, the steps of the sales process, what to say, what not to say. I can go really, really deep into the weeds on all that. But the juice is everything that Michael just said, which is you got to be you. Because I can give you all the X's and the O's, but Michael doing those same X's and O's, even if we do the exact X and O, the same exact order, the same exact everything, it's going to look and sound different because Michael's not Chaz and Chaz is not Michael. And there's a layer in there of genuineness or authenticity that the salesperson or really just a business owner in general, even as we're building our network, like right now, Michael and I are getting to know each other. We're building our network. Maybe there's something cool that we do in the future. Maybe there's not. But how are we going to ever know that if we're not like just genuinely us and unapologetically so, as Michael said, like it kind of is what it is. I am who I am. Obviously, as leaders, we're always looking to grow, but you got to be genuine. And so I just want the listener to take note of that. It doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are or how much you've sold or how much you haven't sold. Everything that Michael just gave to you is the like crux of sales. And that's why you have this negative mindset towards sales because of the pushy used car salesman, because that person doesn't have what Michael just described. And the person that doesn't know how to close the deal is too nice. And they don't know how to actually make it a duty to close the deal, the duty of like doing the right thing for them.
nice. Yeah, that's a very good way to put it.
Yeah, there's a balance here. So I think you've given us just a really, really great perspective. I just wanted to make sure that hit home for the listener. What do you think about decisions now? You said you're a blunt guy. I can roll with that. How does a blunt, successful, dad and business owner make decisions today? We've talked about a good and bad. How do you make decisions in today's world?
Well, it seems like every decision I'm making now is a new decision. So I'm really lucky because my wife is very smart. She's the beauty and the brains, and like,
Love that.
so I have her to lean on now. And she is, I mean, I've always had her to lean on, but like, she helps me out a lot with stuff with ideas. I bounce off a lot of things with her. And again, like my family, I mean, I'm the least successful one of all my family. You know what I mean? So that should say something about all of them that like I'm surrounded, and because we're like first generation, basically, we're like extremely tight, and we're always like so. I'm surrounded by just successful people, and I guess now that I'm at this level, like I can kind of use what they've done as well in helping, and I've been able to slightly let go of the reins a little bit, which my dad always said that's like the thing I'm most stubborn with. I used to feel like if I wasn't touching it, it wasn't being done right.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because like I have other obligations. I have 3 little kids. I have
Forced external circumstances.
maybe that just came from that, but let people do their jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. You said a second ago that if you didn't touch it, it probably wasn't being done right. If you weren't touching it, it wasn't being done probably like you would have done it. And then you guys like you and I, we have this fog of, well, if it's not done like me, then it's not being done right. And so everything that you just said as far as letting other people do their job, it's like, okay, well, if the result just maybe as long as the result, the deliverable is being done, it might look a little different. They might get there a little different. That's the letting go piece that you're talking about, right?
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal, man. Okay. Speed round. I got a couple of questions, kind of hard hitting. Hopefully they don't put you in a too much of a pickle here, but top KPI. If you can only pick one thing to track, what would it be?
Collections.
Okay. Dollars in.
Yeah.
Why?
Because that's why you're in business, is to make money.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel that if you know that number, then you know the rest of it without asking, or is that just the most important?
Yes. Well, both. That is by far the most important. That's the only reason you should be in business, is to make money, unless you're like a nonprofit, but that's the end. Two is you should somewhat know your margins, to where, like, you know, by looking at how much money you've taken in, you should be able to figure out everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And what about a business resource, book, podcast, event, anything you've been a part of that you can share? We could glean some knowledge from.
The people you surround yourself with. That's
Yeah.
by far, or like seeing people do it, like,
And you've got a great family to do so. If someone doesn't have that, what would you recommend to that person?
finding a mentor, someone that has actually done it.
I don't want to be too cliche here, but what's the value in that for them?
It's everything. Yeah. Someone that's actually done it, has like lived through it, so has the actual experience, but also it's subconsciously, it's like you're sitting there, you're looking at it like it's doable, because this person that is like talking to me has done it, has literally been in my shoes. So like I think you kind of like trick yourself into like, all right, well, it's been done. Like I can, so that means I can do it. It's doable.
Yeah. 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 It's belief, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if you're tricking yourself for a half second. I love that phrase. I used to say that all the time to other business owners or even salespeople early in my career, but I would trick myself into believing I could do it, which then put me into action, take a small step, maybe a second small step. You get a small little result, which then is like, oh, I can do it, which then builds more belief, which then helps me take another big step and another big step and gets me more result, which then gives me more confidence, which is then now I'm like skyrocketing in belief, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a wonderful spiral to be in, but sometimes you got to like work yourself into it, like trick yourself, in your words, right?
Yeah. And also now that I think about it, I think like working out and eating right, because if you feel good about yourself, then you kind of like emulates, and people feel that, I think. So
Oh yeah. 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 There's obviously something about confidence that people can relate to. And if working out, or like you said, dressing the part, you were using it in a totally different example of what you felt like needed to be, and it wasn't genuine, but looking sharp or feeling good about yourself is what you're talking
yeah.
about, nutrition and eating good. That can help with confidence and belief for sure. What about family? I got a question for you about family. Here's my belief, is that there is no such thing as balance. And you've been successful in your business because you've been obsessed with it. And I believe that you're going to be successful in your family and as a dad because you're going to be obsessed with it. So my question is, how have you been able to obsess in those areas at the same time as obsessing with your business?
That's a great question. I don't know. I really have no idea. It's just like less sleep. You know what I mean? And that kind of goes back to letting people do their jobs, because
Right.
like honestly, what is more important? Taking your kid to the doctor if he's sick in the middle of the day, or work? It's your kid. Like family trumps everything else by far. And if you have good people in place, then it doesn't, then it's kind of like beneficial in a lot of ways, because it lets people, again, like, you then give them confidence in the fact that like, hey, you can do it. Like, and you're telling me that maybe not because you believe it, but at the time, but because like who else is going to do it? Because again, you have to do something more important. And I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody will agree that. And if they don't, I think that's terrible. That family and your children are the most important thing in your life.
Yeah. What about for the guy? Because I used to be this guy. Thankfully, I'm not anymore. For the guy that says family is important, but when you look at his calendar, you don't see family on there. Or you look at his decisions.
You're missing out. Like it's just, I think it's just sad. Well, frankly, I feel bad for the kids, but
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, you're being a loser. I don't even know how to say it. You're not understanding the most important thing in life. Like the biggest joy I think I've ever gotten was watching my 5-year-old play Little League baseball. I mean, it was like I couldn't get enough of it. I would stop whatever I was doing to make sure I was at every practice, it's just like that is true excitement.
Yeah.
But then again, when I was younger, every sale I got, I would call my parents, I'd call my wife,
Yeah.
so as you grow, I think you mature in certain ways.
Yeah. I think that those answers are super authentic. And I think that somebody listening is needing exactly that. Because you're right, it's joy. And it's also like a little bit of a mindset shift because sometimes we give up what we say is important to us because we don't quite believe it yet. Right. And so my belief back then was that, well, if I'll build my business, it's for my family. Like I actually felt like I was doing something for my family by not being there. Right.
Yeah.
And that was just my belief. And it doesn't mean that you give up every single moment. It can't be either or. It's gotta be both. And that's why I really genuinely believe about being obsessed with both. So I just appreciate that perspective. It's also interesting too, because you were given that from your parents, successful business owners, and then they created this environment with you and your siblings where you guys still today are super tight. That doesn't happen accidentally, right?
Oh yeah. No, yeah.
Very
No,
cool.
no. And the funny thing is, like, my dad, he worked his ass off. Like, and my wife asked because my wife's mom was a stay-at-home mom, and was very like into her and her sisters as they were growing up, like very big into PTA, just like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Both of my parents were just like grinding and hustling, and like we talk about it. I'm like, I don't remember them ever missing it. Maybe they did, that's what I'm saying. Like you remember like parts of your life that like, we probably trick ourselves into like thinking everything was all hunky dory. But like I don't remember ever feeling neglected
Yeah.
or them missing anything that was important. And I also like to say like it it helps you for the real world if your parents aren't there constantly. Because like you have to start figuring things out on your own. And like you start kind of building that character where you're able to like talk your way into things and talk your way out of things at a young age.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. There's got to be space, even though you're obsessed with them. I really liked what you said. My mom did the same thing. I felt like where she's working 2 and 3 jobs the whole time, single parent, but she didn't miss a game.
Yeah.
Now she couldn't come to my practices and stuff like that. That wasn't realistic. But I never missed a game, or she never missed a game. She was always there, and I always knew she was there because she was loud and getting the refs all fired up.
Yes.
And that fired me up all the more. Like when I really think about it, I can remember Christmases that were pretty small. Like we just kind of just got together and sang a Christmas carol, and others where the room was full of presents. And I don't think really either of those things really matter because the feeling that I got was she did everything that she possibly could. Right. I used to have well, with edible arrangements, our initial business, we still own a couple of those, but we have a lot of single moms that have come through that team or those teams in those different locations. And I had one specifically, this was years ago, and she was just bawling a couple weeks before Christmas and worried about how am I going to do Christmas? And I thought, first off, it was really sad that our environment or that our society has made this single mom feel inadequate as a mother because she couldn't provide material presents. I just thought that was ridiculous. And then I encouraged her that like I came from a single mom family and I'm sure that there were more Christmases where there was less than there was more, right? In fact, I know that to be true now, but that's not how you remembered as a kid, to your point. And so I want to encourage the listener, everything that you just said is you can be obsessed, and we should go all in on our kids. At the same time too, they're going to remember the cool things that we did for them. And whether we were at, the cool games, the practices, or we take the cool trip or whatever it is, it's our job to create those memories. And we do those in whatever the obsession looks like for our situation, for our financial situation, for our time commitment, whatever it might be. I just think that you come from a really great example. And I look forward to be able to do that for my kids, like your parents have done for you. And then, of course, you're going to have the same opportunity with your kids. I just think it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
I got one last question here for you, brother. You ready?
Yeah.
I want to know, if you had a chance to whisper in the younger Michael's ear, what would you say?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail. Yeah, like basically, don't be afraid to fail. That's it. That's what I would say. And I would say, get off your ass. Well, actually, okay, hold on. Are you like, how young are we talking about?
Good question. You name it.
So I've been thinking about this recently. So when I was younger, I was a total screw up. Like my parents didn't even think I was going to graduate high school. Like I used to weigh like 450 pounds. Like I was
Wow.
just a total drain on my family, I think. And like I did nothing that was useful. So back then,
Wow.
I would have told myself to get off your ass and like start being productive. Like just get up, like stop being a loser, get up and do something productive. And that, like, in my late 20s, I would tell myself, don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah. Most powerful moment that you just delivered. I hope the listener stayed until the end. Maybe we'll move that to the beginning of the, I don't know, but thank you for sharing that, brother. That was from the depths of who you are, for sure. I want to do another podcast with you just on that. We don't have time for that today. But man, that set me up for, I need to know more. And I hope that the listener does as well. How can the listener find you? Number one, obviously you provide incredible outdoor lighting services in the Houston area. How can they find you if they're in the area, they got family in the area, they need your lights? How can they find you? And then, or if they're a business owner and they're intrigued like I am to get to know you better, how can they find you?
So, our business is called Houston Lightscapes. You can Google us, our website, HoustonLightscapes.com. Our office number, 713-461-3600. Reach out. I'd obviously love the business and love the opportunity to meet whoever and anybody I can help, frankly. And that's how you find us.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. We appreciate you being here, sharing. You've given, I don't know if you intended to share like you did today, but man, really, really good and helpful. And so we wish you nothing but success and blessing on your family and on your business, your team, everything that you have your hand to, Michael. Thank you for being here, brother.
Yeah, yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.